All right. So we did what is called oscillation of a system with more than 1 degree of freedom. So how you define a system with more than 1 degree of freedom is by defining its potential. So let's imagine the potential is given by U and it has a minima at Qi naught. And we use the same convention, displacement from the origin to be given by Xi. So Qi minus Qi naught is Xi. And we start with saying that you can expand the potential around this using the variables defined above as this form, half Ki Xi Xk. And now we know that this Kik will be positive because it's a minima. So the second derivative will always be positive, not too hard to see. Also, in general, we know from our earlier discussions that the kinetic energy can be written in this form that I'm highlighting. Aik is Qi dot Qk dot. And then you can write you can also conclude that your AIK, so you can write AIK at the minima and as a first order approximation. And then your MIK you also know will be symmetric because you are because these two coefficients are symmetric. So then finally you get your Lagrangian as this. Now the only important thing is KIK is symmetric and positive, and MIK is symmetric and positive. Okay. From this you can obtain the equation of motion by basically taking the derivative of the Lagrangian directly, so that your dx and dx dot coefficients come out explicitly, and you have to use the property that I described above, that they're symmetric, and yeah, that should be it, and change labels and so on. So from this you can find that for find your Euler-Lagrange equations as this. So Mik x double dot k plus Kik xk equal to 0. So now the point is that solving this differential equation in general is going to be complicated, and we want to find a reasonable looking form in terms of matrices. And to do that, what we first do is we substitute for xk ak e power I omega t. Okay, this is something we can always do, and obviously we take just the real part of this as our solution. So when we plug this in, then what happens is we get an equation of this form. And now this particular matrix equation is, if you see carefully, of the form that you are multiplying a matrix with a column and you want it to be 0. So for any non-trivial solution, which is to say for a solution in which AKs are not all zeros, you have to demand that the determinant of this matrix, which was earlier a differential equation, has now become an algebraic equation, if you note, must be 0. And that is this condition, that Kik minus omega square Mik must be 0. And this actually, if you recall, that Kik and Mik are already known, because these were given to us in the problem. Omega square was the variable we introduced in the solution that we claimed. So from this equation, which will throw out a characteristic equation in degree s for omega square, you will get s solutions in general. Now there are a couple of things to note. One is that these s solutions in general will be different, and they'll have real and positive roots. So real is easy to see because uh, let's say the matrix is, what is it called, symmetric, sorry. So the matrix is symmetric, and it will be positive because of the following things. But before we show why it's positive, just a notation: omega alpha are called characteristic frequencies or eigen frequencies of the system. Okay, so now we give two arguments for why omega alpha should be positive. The first reason for why it should be positive is because if it was complex, then what will happen is that if you recall, your solution was xk is equal to ak. This is how we started with getting an omega. So you have to plug in a complex omega alpha, and when you plug in a complex omega alpha, you will see that your x dot starts decreasing exponentially. Okay, and when that happens, what you are saying is that this is not an admissible solution because the energy of the system will have to explicitly depend on time, since it's exponentially decaying with time. Earlier, U and T would have implicit time dependencies, and they would somehow balance to keep E constant. If this depended on time, then it would decay exponentially and the energy would not be conserved. Okay, so it's not a very tight argument, but it's the physical intuition. The mathematically tight argument is as follows. So you start with your same equation, minus omega square Mik plus Kik equal to 0. And the trick here is that you multiply it by A star I. So what you're really doing is that you're multiplying it by, so if this is a matrix into row, then you are multiplying it with a, sorry, if it's a matrix into column, you are multiplying on the left with the row. And when you do that, you see that you will get an equation for omega square in terms of something on the top and something on the bottom. So this is basically the, again, matrix K multiplied by A and A as rows and columns. And the argument is simply that both of these, first of all, are real. And you can really check that by substituting, so taking the star of this and showing that the conjugate is the same as the original. And you can show that it's positive by simply writing your A as having a real part and an imaginary part. And you do the calculation and you in fact get a quadratic form for both of them. And this will be positive granted your K matrices are positive. Okay. So that is the reason why your omega alphas are positive. So that's good to know. Now, once you know that your omega alpha, so you solve the equation, the characteristic equation, and then once you know your omega alphas are, well, once you evaluate omega alpha, then you can plug them back in, and you can obtain the solution for AK. Okay. So now what you're doing is, since this matrix is known, you're going to find some AKs for which this is 0, and for every so since you found S solutions for omega, you will have S solutions for AK. Okay, so that means you will have S column vectors A. Okay. Now, okay, so now there is a small claim which we will not prove now, which is that if the omegas are distinct, then you can show that the AK, this AK, the solution you get, will have to be proportional to the minor of the determinant. So the determinant meaning the determinant of this full matrix. So it will be proportional to the minor of this matrix. So that means if I assume this claim to be true, that means I can write xk as delta k alpha. So this is the proportional, the factor it's proportional to. Then there's a proportionality constant I'm putting C alpha. And this remaining thing is as I had in my solution of xk. Okay, so let me help you recall. Xk was here. So this is xk. Real part of this thing is xk. Okay, I have not written real, but it's assumed. So AK is this. Sorry, XK is this, and we just substituted for AK. Where did it go? AK as delta K alpha C alpha. Okay. So now the claim is that the general solution is the sum of S particular solutions. Okay. Again, I'm not going to prove it. So what we are saying is that once you find, so effectively, it's just like saying that everything is going to be a linear combination of these AS. So there's not much to show, but anyway, the idea is that you can write the general solution as a sum of all of these particular solutions. And how we write that is we say that, okay, so xk is real part of, okay, before we do that, we just write xk in a slightly more simplified form. So we say xk is equal to real part of the expression which I just told you. And now since your delta k alpha is already real and symmetric, which follows from the fact that it's coming from a matrix which was to start with real and symmetric and positive, but we don't care for that now. You can shove the real part through this and put it in just the last two parts, which basically looks like a harmonic oscillator with the phase and amplitude information inside C alpha, right? Okay, so now the point is that, so it's good to note that we have already something which looks like a harmonic oscillator, just that the general solution is a combination of all these harmonic oscillator motions with the balance being given by this delta k alpha. Okay, so now the interesting thing is that all of the motion is essentially given by a superposition of S harmonic oscillators with these oscillation frequencies, and the phases and amplitudes are arbitrary. Is definite, as I said. So now what we want to do is, as physicists and as Landau does things, we want to make it simpler. So the question you ask is, can you find a coordinate transformation such that every degree of freedom has executes only one motion? Okay. So what we are really saying is that you already knew xk, okay, and we have this equation delta k alpha inverse xk is equal to theta alpha. This basically follows from the earlier equation xk is equal to delta k alpha into theta alpha. So I can invert this since it's real symmetric with non-zero determinant, I'm assuming. So you can write it in this form, and what that really means is that you are writing a combination of these xk's, and a combination of these xk's is always a valid general transformation so long as they remain orthogonal and things like that. So that is true in this case. So therefore, now you have a new coordinates which, well, are already written in this form theta alpha, and these are what we call normal coordinates. Okay, so these are generalized coordinates theta alpha, which are obtained by writing xk multiplied by the inverse of the minor. And there's something called normal oscillations, which are the periodic oscillations of theta alpha. So theta alpha, remember, we've already defined, so we already know what theta alpha is, and we know that it satisfies this differential equation because it's just the solution of this equation, the harmonic oscillator equation that we had to start with. So now the nice part is that in these normal coordinates, since this is the equation, it means that and this is true for all alpha, it means that you have S independent equations. So all of these degrees of freedoms are oscillating independently with a certain frequency. And they're independent, and that's nice, which basically means I can write the full Lagrangian. So for the full system, I can write my Lagrangian as summation over alpha and then the old expression. Okay. And M alpha is some proportionality constant. So mathematically, then what we've done is we've basically solved the problem in a very elegant way. We found a coordinate transformation. So whatever problem, so you had a problem given in some coordinate systems, xk, you used those coordinate system, you transformed them using this particular matrix, which is also given to you because the what do you say, kinetic energy you can evaluate and the potential is known, and this thing is basically just those two things evaluated at the origin and some simpler function of that, and from that you can find your theta. So effectively you have boiled, you've reduced your problem into that of S harmonic oscillations. Okay, and it also is interesting to note that this puts both. So this transformation puts the kinetic energy and the potential energy in the diagonal form, which is evident from the expression for the Lagrangian. You can always choose the convention to be such that your M alpha, you can scale it out. So you choose slightly new coordinates and get rid of the M alpha, and you can write your Lagrangian in this form. Okay? So this is what we did today, and I hope it made sense. And next time we look at some more interesting special cases and look at some forced oscillations and things of that variety, and then go on to vibrations of molecule, which is also quite interesting. Okay? So that was that, and I don't know, Kishore, if you have something to say, you can say it now.
No, thanks a lot.
Oh, okay, you're most welcome, teacher. Oh no, you know what I think? I think this time also the let's see after the recording. I think this time also the screen share was wrong. But let's see. It could be that you were on the big screen or I was on the big screen. But anyway. Okay, so thanks for nobody, since nobody watches. But anyway, bye.